Alright, this is a continuation of the UV tutorial. We've made most of our cuts now, and we've unfolded them. So we've got our face, and we've got our pieces of the nose and mouth. Here's the inside lids of the eyes, the nose, nostrils on either side, lip, mouth. And you can notice I'm trying to keep certain pieces together, so I did it in order of where you would see it on the face. So here's the inside of the eyes, here's your nose, and then your lip, and I put the mouth to the side. And we have the head, and the back of the head. Now that we've finished that, what we want to do is we want to put it into this square. But before we do that, I'm just going to quickly go over one last tool that I wasn't really able to go over on our last tutorial, and that's the sew together tool. And I use that a lot on the nostrils here, and the way I did that was I went to edges, and what I ended up doing is I ended up cutting off the top here and then making a slit, and I just unfolded that, and then I attached the top afterward. And the way I did that was I went and selected the edges that I wanted it to attach on, and you can see actually in the UV texture editor the edges will turn orange to let you know which ones they are. So if we just select the one edge, we know that this edge actually connects to this edge here. Or if we select this one, this edge connects to this edge. And if we wanted to sew those back together, we would click the sew tool right underneath the scissors, and it would sew them back up. Now this is really helpful if you've made a cut that you don't entirely like, or you're having trouble unfolding them. So what you can do is you can make more than one cut and then place them together afterward. So we have all of our cuts, we have our nose, we have our face, and now we want them in this upper right hand square right here. And so one of the ways you can do that that's really easy is you can just go to your UVs, you can select all your UVs, go to your polygons, and you're going to go down to layout options box. Now the one I like to do is I'll just do the prescale to none, and that all looks good, so I'm just going to go ahead and press apply, and it will automatically throw those into the box for you, and it lays them out in a nice neat little thing. Now the issue with this is I have a lot of extra space on the right hand side, right bottom corner right here, that I could use for my texture map, and it's not being used right now. So what I'll probably do is I'm going to take some of the things that I want the most detail in, such as the nose and maybe the inside of the mouth, and I'm going to put them here. So I'm going to go ahead and grab those using my UV shell tool, and I'm going to move them over there. And I'm just going to size them up a bit. And right now I have it on discrete scale, so I know that it'll be a scale that I like. The other thing is it's switched my face sideways, and that's not the most easy way to paint. So I'm just going to go ahead and flip it the other way here. And that's a little bit better. And I'll go ahead and size the back of my head down just a tad. And that's a bit too small for my liking, so I'm just going to go ahead and go into my scale tool and switch my step size to 1. And that's a little bit better. And I'm trying to give myself just a little bit of room on the edges here, because if we get too close, it might not show up in our texture map. It also makes it easier for us to paint and get rid of seams, because in order to get rid of our seams, we want to be able to paint a little bit beyond the edge of the cuts. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my face and pull that over a bit. And what's happening is when I try and pull it over, it will pop back. And the reason why that's happening is because I'm overlapping my UVs on top of each other. So just go ahead and pull that over. And that looks a little bit better to me. And I might just rotate it a little more. There we go. So now I've got all these laid out, and I'm going to kind of decide where I want to put them. So here's my nose. And I can tell that because over here the points will be highlighted, all the UV points. So I know exactly what part of the nose that is. And since this is supposed to be the bulb at the end of the nose, I probably want to just go ahead and turn that so it's faced a little more like it would be in the model. And that seems about right. And then I've got my other part of the nose right here. And I'm just going to bring that down where the rest of the nose is. Now doing the layout is really nice just because it puts it all in the place where you want it to be, and then you can adjust to whichever way is easier for you. Then I'm going to go ahead and size it up. I'm going in my scale. And I'm going to pop this up to 25. Just so it scales a bit bigger, a bit quicker. And there we go. And I'm using the empty spaces of the face here a little bit, just so I can take up a little more of that map space. And then I've got the inside of our nostrils, which don't need to be that big at all, because we're never really going to be looking up inside the nose. So those are going to be pretty small compared to the rest of the map. Now I can go ahead and grab those, and I think I'm going to drag them over here. Trying to keep all those nose parts together. I think that's good. So now all those parts are together. Now all I have left is my lip and my mouth and my two eyes. So the eyes, you know, this is the inside of the head. You're never going to really see them. They're always going to be behind the eyeball. So they really don't need to be that big. I'm just going to kind of stuff them off to the side of the nose. But we're really not going to have to bother with them. Now if I want to get a little more space on this nose here, I could flip it around. And size it up. Just trying to get a little more use out of the space that we have. There we go. And then I can just grab the eye and I'll put it on the other side of that nose. And there we go. Now all we have left is our lip piece and our mouth pieces. And now that we've readjusted these a little bit, we can actually get more out of them. So since the lip is actually going to be shown a lot of times, I'm going to put that off to the side here where there's a little more room and size that up. And that's all done, and now I can go ahead and get the inside of the mouth here and here. I'm thinking I might be able to squeeze it in between the head here. Maybe get myself a little more space, depending on how I rotate it. And I'll just rotate this one as well. Flip it around. And I think that's a fairly decent map. I might actually even size up the back of the head now that I've placed all my items. Not much, just a little bit. And there we go. And we have our UV map all set up, ready to be painted on, and it's taking up a majority of the space. We have a little room right here, but not nearly as much as we had before, which is nice. It's always good to use that little extra spaces that you find because you've made your cuts. Now that you've made it though, how do you paint on it? Well, you have to make a UV snapshot. And you're going to bring that into Photoshop and you're going to paint on it. But for this tutorial, I'm just going to show you how to make the UV snapshot. And you do that by just going into polygons. And you're going to go all the way to the bottom, UV snapshot. And you can decide exactly how big you want your map to be. And usually you'll decide how big your map is either by how close you're going to get to the object. So in this case, if it's a face like this, if you're going to be having any close-ups of the face, you're going to want a fairly large resolution map. So if you're doing, say, a 720 by 480 film, you're never really going to be larger than that. So you probably won't make your map any larger than that. Since we're doing this for a planetarium film, our range is actually going to be 1000 by 1000. That's as large as it gets. So that's what I'm going to make it, because we're going to have some close-ups of this character, and I want to be able to get as close as possible to his face without any blurring. So I'm going to go ahead and make that 1000 by 1000 pixels on the size. Go ahead and make it a JPEG format, and you can decide where you're going to send it. I'm just leaving it in here because I've set my project to that, and it will pop up with my output UVs, which is under the images in your set folder. And then you can just go ahead and press OK. And it will send it there, and you can open it up in Photoshop and you can paint on it. So that's it for UVs.